Someday, when I'm awfully low, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you and the way you look tonight. Yes, you're lovely with your smile so warm and your cheeks so soft. There is nothing for me but to love you and the way you look tonight. With each word your tenderness grows, tearing my fear apart. And that laugh wrinkles, you know, it touches my foolish heart. Lovely, never ever change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it? 'Cause I love you just the way you look tonight. You know, it touches my foolish heart. Lovely, don't you ever change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it? 'Cause I love you just the way you look tonight. Just the way you look tonight. In the fall of 2019, I was out camping with a friend of mine. We were doing an overnight camp out in a really remote place in BC here. And we decided, well, we better get our firewood collected for the evening. So we drove up the road a little bit and to a spot where there was a lot of wood and got out. And I started gathering up the wood. My friend had my drum out of the car and was beating on it for a while. And as I was finished gathering the wood, we drove back, and a little later in the evening my buddy suggested, hey, get your drum out and let's sing and play some drums. So I went and looked for it and couldn't find it, and then I remembered. So anyway, off we drove back up there to grab my drum, and much to my dismay it was gone. Now I recall seeing a couple people pass by us on this really remote road, and then come back the other way. So I knew that it had to be one of those couples that found the drum and took it. But of course I had no way of knowing who it was. So that was pretty well just the way it went. And you know, the funny thing was I love that drum a lot. Absolutely love that drum. It's very special to me. I've played a lot of music on it to my friends in the woods. And then it's a part of me. I have a connection with it. But surprisingly, I let it go. I was fine with it. I wasn't happy, of course, but I realized, okay, if the drum's gone, then I have to let it go, and I was surprisingly okay with that. However, about 3 months later, I got a email from the fellow who actually made the drum, who lives in Oregon. And I was having another drum made for a friend of mine, and so I was in contact with him via email, talking about designs for the drum and what I wanted to have put on the drum, the theme. And one day I got an email from him and said, "By the way, did you lose your blue heron drum?" And I guess it wasn't that hard for him to figure out that it was mine, because he made that drum specific for me. Now, he did ask me permission after the fact, and I think he may have made another one or maybe another couple because people love the design. But basically, he figured, okay, well, this is probably Brian's drum. So he asked me if I lost it, and of course I had. And he told me that a lady had gotten a hold of him and seen his name on the back. And so he gave me her contact information. So shortly thereafter, Sue and I went and retrieved my drum, and it was local, so it wasn't far to go. And then we decided, well, let's go to one of our favorite places, which is a little wharf that goes out into a lake. And it's really peaceful and tranquil there, and we thought, oh, let's go there and we'll sit around, play the drums, connect with our friends, just go and relax. And so off we went. And once we got there and we're sitting out on the pier there, Sue suggested that I go back to the car and get my drum, because I hadn't brought it at that point, and start playing. So I went back to the car and I got it out of the trunk, and as I'm walking back towards the pier, I start beating on my drum, and I'm just improvising a song as I go along, thanking the SASQUATCH people for helping me get my drum back, telling them how much I appreciate them, how much I love the drum, just basically singing a song of gratitude for what had happened that day. And when I got back to the pier, I handed the drum to Sue, and she started beating on it softly. And all of a sudden, we both heard, "Hoo, hoo, hoo," a very clear owl sound. And to me, it sounded like a barred owl, but Sue said, "I don't think that's an owl." And I said, "Well, Sue, I don't know. I think it sounds like a barred owl to me." But shortly thereafter that, we heard another call, and then another one. So we heard 2 or 3 calls in succession. And then out of the blue, Sue said, "You know they imitate owls, don't you?" Well, we've had a lot of experience with Sasquatch shape-shifting or looking through the eyes of different animals. And so, to us, that's almost like saying, you know the water is wet, don't you? I mean, it's just so obvious. I mean, we know that they imitate owls. We've had a lot of experiences where they have done that. So it was kind of like a really ridiculous comment. But anyway, at the very instant that she said it, all of a sudden we heard a chorus of yells and screams and cries and whoops and shrieks. And it sounded like about a dozen individuals. And it sounded like a celebration, or perhaps try to visualize being stranded on a desert island. Except it would be more than one person. Probably, like half a dozen or a dozen people stranded on an island. And all of a sudden they see a plane go by. or a ship, or something that they figure, like something that they can be rescued with. And so they all start reacting and yelling and screaming and whooping. And that was kind of like the sentiment or the flavor or the feeling that we got. It was that urgent, but to me it seemed like more of a celebration, and that they were acknowledging that they were happy that I got my drum back. Their boisterous celebration went on for, I'm going to say, between 5 and 7 seconds. And I am somewhat hearing impaired. I don't hear all that well. I'm not deaf. But I heard the yells and the whoops and the screams really, really clearly. Really clearly. And I can imagine how loud it must have been for Sue. But it was absolutely surreal. When you hear them talking or singing or doing stuff of that nature, it almost feels like you do go into another dimension or another reality. It's very, very surreal. That's probably the best way that I can describe it. And so something else that I really thought was amazing is that Sue had been mentioning for some time now that she missed hearing their whoops and their cries and their screams, and that she hadn't heard that for a long, long time. And, it's also my experience is that when they connect with you, initially, they want to get your attention. And so that they do more in-your-face things like the yells and the screams and the physical stuff, throwing a rock in front of you or whatever. I'm not saying that they don't do that anymore, but they do more of it initially because they want to get your attention. Once they have that, then that kind of activity is not as necessary. However, Sue had remarked that she had not heard their yells and their screams or whoops for some time, and how much she missed them. And so, when we heard this celebration and all these screams and yells and whoops and everybody going off at the same time, and I remember thinking immediately that, well, it's been a while since Sue's heard them, but they certainly made up for it this time. It was really, really something, and it's such a privilege. It's hard to explain. It feels like a privilege, an honor. It feels magical. It feels beyond words. But to have a connection with Sasquatch like that, where they are showing you their love and appreciation, in the very, very, very many ways that they do it. It's just really touches your heart. Really gets right inside your heart, and it's just, it's really, really beautiful. And I really, really hope that anybody who is listening to this story, or that has an interest in Sasquatch, or connecting with them, or learning from them, or just has an open heart, my wish for you would be for you to experience something like this. Because the connective nature of it really tells you all you have to know about the nature of our connection to everything. So that would be my wish and my prayer for all of you.
Don't shed a tear for me. No, it's not your style. If you're not here by me, then it's not worthwhile. My my world, and my world is your world. It's mine. I've been crying, I'm lonely. What do I do to have you to stay? I've needed you to cry on. I've written to you nearly every day. My world is our world, and this world is your world, and your world is my world, and my world is your world is mine. Don't shed a tear for me. That's not your style. If you're not here by me, it's not worthwhile. My world is our world, and this world is your world, and your world is my world, and my world is your world is mine. I've been crying, I'm lonely. What do I do to have you to stay? I've needed you to cry on. I've written to you nearly every day. My world is our